You and she had a tough time when she was an adolescent. She was very rebellious, had a very difficult adolescence. She now lives in Maine.
Yes, she does.
Where she helps out kids who've been through some of the problems she went through.
Well, this is what's so wonderful. I titled this in the book the hardest chapter that I had to write, because my daughter really had a terrible adolescence, and so did I. She ran away. She had enormous problems. And I said, should we write about this, Jackie? And she said, yes, and tell people, because we came through it, and tell them how we did it. And today she runs a wilderness therapeutic program for adolescent girls in crisis, girls who went through what she went through. It's in Maine. It's called New Horizons. She's very hands-on. It's a therapeutic camp, but she runs it and founded it. So she's come full circle, and I just adore her. But I have to tell you, I used to go up to Maine all the time and visit her. And she had 1 dog, and then she had 2 dogs, and then she had 3 dogs, and that was still okay with me. But when she got a ferret, I have drawn the line. Now she comes to New York, I do not go to visit her with the 3 dogs, a cat, and a ferret.
Well, the camp is in a rather remote part of eastern Maine.
The camp is okay.
And I have to confess, I can't quite see you roughing it in the wilderness of Maine.
Oh, I could, because, you know, there were many years when I would be traveling, when I would... when I went to India, for example, years ago as a writer on the Today Show, we lived in tents at some point when we were traveling. No, I can rough it pretty well. And I could rough it in Maine. I don't want to rough it with the ferret.
Fair enough. The revelation from the book that has gotten the most attention is your acknowledgement that you had an affair with Senator Ed Brooke of Massachusetts back in the 1970s, the first African-American elected to the Senate since Reconstruction. He was married at the time. Given the response to that revelation, do you regret that you told that story?
Well, I regret that it's been taken, that people think this is a kiss and tell book. I put it in. Yes, he was married, and we knew it was wrong, and we broke it up. And he asked for divorce. That's not what got people, whether they admit it or not. It's that he was an African American. And I wrote about it because a lot of this book is history. And I wanted people to see my life in context of what was going on in this country. And the fact that 31 years ago, the fact that I had a relationship with an African American man, very distinguished, superb senator, but an African-American man and a white woman would have been enough to destroy his career and mine. Today, we have an African-American running as president. And it's 5 pages out of 612. So when people read it in context, but it was the only thing that came out of the book for almost 2 weeks until the book was published, because the book had been embargoed and no one had read it.
But you know the value of that kind of publicity, and the book now is riding atop the bestseller lists.
Well, I don't think that's...
So you're a little bit like Brer Rabbit saying, don't throw me in that briar patch.
I think the book would have been on the bestseller list without that. I think I could have removed that whole chapter, which also talks about Alan Greenspan and John Warner, relationships I had that nobody seems to be interested in except Alan Greenspan and John Warner, and they're very happy with it. I think the book would have been a bestseller anyway.
In reading the book and thinking about your life, I'm struck by the arc of your career. It seems to me that your timing was exquisite. You got into television just right about at the time where it was really catching on as a mass medium, and you reduced your workload a few years ago at the time where the audience was really splintering and going to hundreds of different channels. Do you feel fortunate that you came along at just the right time and rode that wave?
Well, I don't think I did it on purpose. I didn't think I'm going to go into television now and show people how difficult it is for a woman or for a man. So I do think there's been an arc to the career, and I think that one has to know, and I think I do know, when it's time to move on, when it's time to do something else.
You still pretty much make your living talking to people. You've been doing it for a long time. What comes into your mind when you see this from the Wayback Machine? How to talk to practically anybody about practically anything, your first book.
That book, notice the color of my hair, please.
Oh, you're...
Yeah.
That's from the Time Machine.
Yes, that...
the Wayback Machine.
I'm sorry to have you find out that I'm not a natural blonde. Yeah. That book, or this book, was written 36 years ago. And people still come up to me, as you just did, with this book. Because people now are meeting people are doing lectures, they're meeting celebrities, they're meeting politicians. With the internet and with blogs, you're coming in contact with people you might not know. So how to talk to practically anybody about practically anything seems to have struck a chord all those years ago. And if I do another book, have to finish with this one for a while, but if I do another book, I think that I would probably bring this up to date.
I came across a great line one time from a gentleman who happens to be a friend of yours, Leonard Garment, and he was describing his age. I think he was at that time in his late 70s. He described his chronological status in baseball terms: rounding second and heading for home. What do you still want to do as you are rounding second and heading for home?
I want to get into the dugout and rest. Yeah, I don't want to climb any more mountains. I mean, I want to travel to a country for more than one day. I want to be able to, as I said when I left 2020, and then it never happened because I ended up doing 4 specials a year. I want to learn Spanish. I want to go to museums. And I've said, I don't want to do any great big gets anymore. And then somebody said, and what if Osama bin Laden called? And I said, I'll pack right away.